Hey, how's it going everybody? In the last video, we covered what the standard file structure looks like when we create a Django project. One of the first things that you'll probably want to do after you have created your Django project is to show some custom HTML within the browser window. So let's go ahead and create an index page, which is usually what you call the main page of a website, and display some text on that. The first place that we're going to start is within our terminal window, and we're going to write Python manage.py start app, and then we're simply going to call our app example_app. And one of the first questions that comes to mind is what exactly is an app? In Django terms, it helps to think of applications as self-contained modules that have some specific functionality. It helps to think of a couple of examples. So you might have one app for authentication, you might have another app for the blogging functionality, and you might have a separate app for the e-commerce features on your website. Right after creating this app in the terminal, you can see that a new folder plops up in the file tree. And this folder is called example_app, just like we named it. And within it, there is a migrations folder and a couple of Python files. For us at the moment, the views file is the most important one that we're going to focus on, but don't worry about it, we're going to cover all the other files at a later stage. So the easiest way to think about views is that when we publish this website, we're going to have users who visit the website. And these users are probably going to use some sort of web browser, and this web browser is going to send a request to the server, and in the server, we need some way to process these requests, and that is done in the views function. So the views, they take the requests from the client and they return some sort of HTTP response to the client. So within the views.py file, the first thing we're going to write is from django.http import HTTP response. And further below, we're going to define the function index. And we're going to pass in one argument, which is going to be the request that comes from the client. And below that, we're going to write return HTTP response. And within brackets, we're going to write hello world. And we're going to add some h1 tags around that and some quotation marks. The very last thing that we need to do in order to show this HTML within the browser is to set a URL route. So within the example project, you can see that there is one file called urls.py. Let's navigate to it, and within this file, we are going to set the route. And you can see in this file that there is already one URL route which is defined by default, so it comes with the installation, and that is the admin route. Let me briefly go ahead and show you what this does. So in the terminal, we're going to write Python manage.py run server, which is going to run the website locally on our computer. So once we do that, we get this URL over here, and we're simply going to open that up within our browser. And that, if you remember from the last tutorial, opens the standard page from our Django file. But if we go ahead and add a URL path, namely the one that we just saw a moment ago, which was admin, we get brought to the admin dashboard that allows us to log in. So let's go ahead and close that back down, and within the URL patterns, we're going to create a new one. We're going to write path, and then within brackets, we're first going to specify what the URL route is going to be. Since we're creating the main page of our website, you could leave this blank, but let's go ahead and simply call this home. And then, as the second argument, we need to pass in the view that we created earlier. So down here, we're going to write views.index, and at the top, make sure to import the views. So we're going to write from example_app import views. Now back in the browser window, we can go ahead and add a /home to the end of the URL, and you'll see that as soon as we do that, we get brought to the hello world, which we created earlier in the view. Alright, so we're going to leave it here for this video, and in the next video, we're going to cover templates.